In his book, 1984, Orwell said, quote, "In the end, the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5, and you'd have to believe it." In what appears to be a case of life imitating art, we now have a PhD student at Harvard claiming that 2 plus 2 can equal 5. Further proof that while anyone can be wrong, it takes education to get people really that stupid. So we'll ponder that next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution and we teach the rising generation to be free. I am glad you could join me. As always, please head over to that website, constitutionstudy.com, find out what's going on. Please sign up for the newsletter. I've got some announcements coming out, and I'd love for you to know right away what's going on. Some changes I'm planning on making to the broadcast schedule, as well as some other things I'm putting in place. That's the best place to be one of the first to find out through the newsletter. Sign up there. You can check the box, have these videos delivered directly to your inbox when they are released. It's also, by the way, where you can head over to the store, maybe support some of the work that we're doing, buy yourself a goodie, make a donation, or just sign up for a membership. Anything you can do to help. But please, whatever you do, please take this information and share it with others. That's what they're here for. We want to spread the word of freedom and liberty and how we can find out not only what freedom and liberty are, but how we can use it to protect our rights and our liberties right here, right now. So with that, let's talk about this 2 plus 2 equals 5. So the first question you have to ask is, why would someone believe that 2 plus 2 equals 5? Well, quoting from 1984, he wondered, as he had many times wondered before, whether he himself was a lunatic. Perhaps a lunatic was simply a minority of one. At one time, it had been a sign of madness to believe that the earth goes around the sun. Today, to believe that the past is intolerable. He might be alone in holding that belief, and if alone, then a lunatic. But the thought of being a lunatic did not greatly trouble him. The horror was that he might also be wrong. So this whole line of thinking for me started around a satirical tweet by James Lindsay. Quote, 2 plus 2 equals 4, a perspective in white Western mathematics that marginalizes other possible values. I think it's funny. I think it points out the ridiculousness of what has come of our culture nowadays, where a simple factual statement that 2 plus 2 equals 4 can be considered racist, imperialist, misogynist, homophobic, whatever. The very idea that 2 plus 2 equals 4, that there's an objective truth, is anathema to so many, especially those coming out of higher education these days. Well, apparently Mr. Lindsay's tweet generated a response. See, it was retweeted by Nicole Hannah-Jones with the comment, quote, "Using Arabic numerals to try to make a point about white Western superiority is just so damn classic." Well, again, so what's so important about a tete-a-tete over Twitter about the concept of 2 plus 2 equals 4? Well, Hannah-Jones is the architect behind the 1619 fiction being peddled to your children today. We see then PhD student Brittany Marshall went on to say, nope, the idea of 2 plus 2 equals 4 is cultural, and because of Western imperialism, colonialism, we think of it as the only way of knowing. This is this critical social justice behind this whole current woke culture. I find that funny because, to me, woke culture is absolutely asleep to the real world. See, this all comes down to a basic concept. Is there such a thing as truth? Are there objective standards for establishing the truth? Or is truth merely a subjective understanding of the world around us? Do we create our own truths? I mean, think about it. Does the idea that 2 plus 2 equals 4 simply true because it's an objective truth, or is it just a Western imperialist colonialist way of thinking? Is it a white racist way of thinking? Is it a way of imposing your will on others? Or is it simply the fact that when you take 2 and you take 2 more, you end up with 4? See, if the world around us, if we cannot agree that 2 plus 2 equals 4, is there any reason why we can't agree on the number of genders? We cannot agree that, with very rare exception, you're either born male or female. You may have different thoughts and ideas, but you're born either male or female, and I can prove it. Again, I can prove it with objective facts, but we don't want to hear those nowadays. We want to do whatever we want. We don't want to be told that 2 plus 2 must equal 4. We don't want to be told. We want 2 plus 2 to equal 5, because if I can make 2 plus 2 equal 5, I can make you believe just about anything. Again, quoting from Orwell's 1984, he picked up the children's history book and looked at the portrait of Big Brother, which formed its frontispiece. The hypnotic eyes gazed into his own. It was as though some huge force were pressing down upon you, something that penetrated inside your skull, battering against your brain, frightening you out of your beliefs, persuading you almost to deny the evidence of your own senses. And so we come back to the Orwell quote I started with. In the end, the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5, and you would have to believe it. It was inevitable that they should make that claim sooner or later. The logic of their position demanded it, not merely the validity of the experience, but the very existence of external reality was tacitly denied by their own philosophy. Why would someone argue that 2 plus 2 equals 5? Because if they can detach you from reality, if they can make you deny what your very senses tell you, they can get you to do anything. If they can get you to not only agree, but to believe that 2 plus 2 can equal 5, they can get you to believe that there are more than 2 genders. They can get you to believe that speech is violence, that if you disagree with someone, it must be because of some sort of phobia. They can disconnect you from reality. They can convince you of anything. There are very powerful reasons why people want to get you to believe that 2 plus 2 can equal 5. Because if they disconnect you from an anchor, you can drift anywhere. If they can convince you that the North Star is actually in the south, they can convince you to sail anywhere. If they can convince you that your sex, your gender, is not based on the chromosomes in your body, but whatever you feel like, they can convince you of anything. This is nothing short of gaslighting. A form of brainwashing to try to divorce you from reality so they can substitute their own reality. And it is so important to the agenda that is coming out of higher education, that's coming out of a lot of academia. I want to look at some of the lengths people will grow, how far they will lie to try to convince you that 2 plus 2 equals 5. Which leads me to the series of tweets from a Harvard PhD student by the name of Karim Carr. I mentioned him before. Quote, imagine a system where you can only measure things to 1 decimal place. So 2 could mean 1.5 to 2.4. 2.4 plus 2.4 is 4.8. In our theoretical system, this would look like 2 plus 2 equals 5. Again, pretty normal to have error in measurements in normal life. Now, rounding errors in mathematics is nothing new. To introduce an intentional error to come up with the answer you want is pure sophistry. This is a fallacious argument meant to deceive the reader into believing what is patently not true. Mr. Carr stated his system can only measure things to 1 decimal place. Then, with a little sleight of hand, changes that to 0 decimal places in order to get the answer he wants. He then went on to, in another tweet, to say, for people that generally don't understand, consider a clock going from 0 to 24. Rescale it so 0 to 1, where 1 is 24 hours. In this system, 2 plus 2 equals 5 because the time wraps around. Clocks are not even that weird. We encounter them all the time. Apparently, Mr. Carr doesn't understand that in this system, where a clock measures days rather than hours, 2 days plus 2 days still equals 4 days, not 5. He then tries to give another example. Quote, second example, imagine computing distances between airports on cost. Is it possible that flying from airport A to B is $200 and B to C is $200, but flight from A to C is $500? Happens all the time. Again, pretty typical everyday example. Have you heard the phrase apples and oranges? See, Mr. Carr did not add the price for the flights from A to B and B to C to come up with the price for A to C. He's comparing 2 different sets of prices. To equate the price difference with the rules of mathematics is not just misfeasance. It is not a mistake. This is flat out malfeasance, the deliberate misconduct to perform evil. That's right, with Mr. Carr and others who are attempting to manipulate people into believing falsehoods, what they are doing is evil. They are trying to disconnect people from reality so you will accept whatever nonsense they wish you to believe. As we see from the spread of the lies of the 1619 Project, I, like the characters in Orwell's novel, do not fear being called a lunatic, or other names for that matter. I fear that the idea that the past cannot be changed is being wiped away. That the idea of truth is being wiped away. That we are being so disconnected from any fixed point of order or navigation or reality that we would believe up is down, black is white, liberty is tyranny, and subjugation is freedom. I don't know if you've read 1984, if you ever thought it would actually come to pass. Apparently it was off only by a few decades. Yes, this idea of 2 + 2 = 5 comes from Orwell's novel, but just look at the lengths that are being used to try to convince you that it's true. There's no reason to do this except to disconnect you from reality, to brainwash you into believing whatever they want you to believe. So the next time someone objects to the idea that 2 + 2 = 4, the next time someone claims that they can prove that 2 + 2 = 5, see it for what it is. Gaslighting, brainwashing, manipulation. Now, I'm not so much sure that the person that's trying to convince you of this has an evil intent, but they have been brainwashed. They have been gaslit into believing such a blatant falsehood to the point that not only do they say that it's true, they're willing to evangelize that it is true. Mr. Carr apparently believes this sophistry, believes it enough to be publicly associated with, to publicly promote it. I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for the tens of thousands of dollars he has spent to be taught stupidity. As I believe Malcolm Muggeridge says, he has been educated into imbecility, and the American people are being educated into imbecility as well. Why anyone would spend tens of thousands of dollars either to go to one of these schools or to send your children to one of these schools to be turned into an idiot, I have no idea. Sooner or later, we have to decide, is the lunatic the person that says 2 + 2 = 4, or the person that's claiming that 2 + 2 can equal 5? Is the lunatic the person that looks at history, looks at the facts, looks at the documents, and comes to a rational, reasonable conclusion, or the person that lies and manipulates and twists what they see in order to fulfill their agenda? Which one of them is a lunatic? It's just another example why you cannot simply trust what you've been told. You need to go back and look at the details. Carr's sleight of hand is simple. Anybody with a basic understanding of math can see the problem. It's not hard to realize, oh, if you change the resolution, the number of decimal places, you're going to get a different answer. That if you compare one price to another price, you're not comparing the same thing. All that you can conclude from his airport travel idea is that it's cheaper to take 2 legs than 1, not that 2 + 2 = 5. And his clock metaphor is ridiculous. It really isn't that hard to figure out. But the American people need to learn to stop trusting what they're being told by so-called experts. There's one thing I've learned from reading and studying the Constitution, is that sometimes experts don't have a clue what they're talking about. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. Head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com, sign up for the newsletter, make a comment, ask a question, participate in the process. Most of all, I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed bringing this to you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll come back here because I would love to see you here the next time on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday